Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little unusual.
Oh, yeah. How so?
We're putting just one single source document under the microscope, really focusing in.
Ah, okay. Just one piece of material.
Exactly, to see what it tells us at a specific corner of the digital world.
Interesting. And what is this source? It's not like a typical research paper or anything.
No, not at all. It's basically, well, it's a listing, an advertisement, really, for a particular digital asset.
Okay. An ad as our source material. What's the asset?
It's a domain name, TWXC.io.
TWXC.io.
Got it. And our mission here, for this deep dive is to unpack everything this listing tells us about its claimed value.
Right. What the seller says makes it valuable.
Yeah. Why are they putting a premium on this specific domain, especially thinking about Web3, crypto, AI, that whole space?
And what advantages they're claiming it offers. How does that stack up?
Precisely. It's like looking really closely at one photo to understand the whole scene around it.
It's a good way to look at how value is presented and perceived, really, for these kinds of intangible assets in these fast-moving digital spaces.
We're basically treating this listing itself as our data.
Makes sense. Where do we start?
Okay, let's unpack it. First up, what exactly is TWXC.io, according to this source?
Well, the listing calls it a premium crypto domain that's up for sale.
Premium crypto domain, okay. And they jump right into what it's supposedly for.
They do. The source says it's meant for launching tokens, doing instant rebranding.
Constant rebranding.
Yeah, and acting as the main online identity for projects, specifically in Web3, AI, or Fintech.
So things like...
They give examples like DeFi platforms, decentralized finance or staking apps, maybe AI trading tools, that sort of thing.
Gotcha. So the claim is this isn't just like a web address. It's positioned as more fundamental.
Foundational, yeah. The online presence for these specific kinds of high-tech projects.
And the listing makes a pretty bold statement early on, doesn't it, about why domains matter so much here.
It really does. It says, and I quote, "In the high-speed world of Web3, your domain is your front line of trust."
Front line of trust. Wow, that's quite the framing.
It is strong language.
When the seller ties trust directly to the domain like that, what's your read? Why is that such a critical point in Web3 based on what this listing is pushing?
Well, it's fascinating how much importance they put on it, right? In these decentralized worlds or just fast-moving tech sectors, building credibility quickly but it's tough.
Yeah, it really is.
You don't always have the usual institutions backing you or vetting you. So that first impression, the perceived legitimacy of your online front door, starting with the domain, it can really influence whether people even look twice.
So the seller's angle is that this domain itself helps build that trust instantly.
That seems to be the core claim, yeah, that the domain provides a sort of ready-made layer of initial trust.
Okay, all right, let's get into the nitty-gritty then. The listing has this section, why TWXC.io. What features are they highlighting?
Okay, so they list a few key things. One, it's a 4-letter premium domain. They point out these are scarce, hard to get, and good for branding.
4 letters, right.
2, it uses the .io extension. The source says this is specifically trusted by Web3, AI, and Fintech folks.
The .io thing, yeah, you see that a lot.
And 3, a really key point they make, it has not been used in any previous CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko listing. Implying it's got a clean slate, no baggage from old projects.
A clean slate? That's interesting. Suggests that past history could actually be a negative, huh?
Definitely seems to be the implication. What else?
Well, they also pitch it as perfect for a token ticker TWXC.
Ah, using the letters themselves makes sense.
They say it's ideal for specific things. Staking platforms, DEXs,
Decentralized exchanges, yeah.
crypto wallets, other DeFi tools. They also claim it's SEO friendly and easy to market. And crucially, it's available now, ready to go.
Right. The immediacy factor.
Let's dig into a couple of those. Why is a 4-letter domain seen as premium or scarce? Is that generally accepted?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The scarcity of short domains, especially 4-letter ones, is well known. There's just a limited number of combinations possible.
Mathematically?
And shorter names are usually easier to remember, easier to type, better for branding. So they naturally cost more, especially if they're, somewhat pronounceable or relevant.
Makes sense. And the .io extension, the seller says it's trusted. Why did .io become so popular in tech and Web3?
Well, .io originally stood for the British Indian Ocean Territory, funnily enough.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but tech companies adopted it early on. Some say because of the input-output connection, IO.
Oh.
So it built up this strong cultural link with tech, with startups, with innovation. The listing is definitely leaning on that existing perception. Claiming it means specific trust in Web3 and AI, it just feels tech native.
Okay. And they really emphasize it hasn't been used on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko before. What's the big deal about that clean history?
That seems aimed squarely at a common Web3 concern. Lots of projects launch, then fizzle out, or worse, turn out to be scams.
Right, unfortunately.
So a domain tied to a failed or shady project carries negative history. By saying this one has no listing history on the big tracking sites, the seller is basically saying, look, fresh start, no ghosts.
It's selling the idea of a clean brand identity from day one.
Exactly. Untainted.
Then the listing gets really practical. It outlines a use case, rebrand, and go live fast. It really pushes this idea of the domain as a shortcut.
Yeah, it lays out a whole strategy based on speed.
How do they suggest you use it? Walk us through that.
Okay, step 1, define your concept. They give that example. Tokenize web exchange coin using the TWXC letters.
Got it. Name your project.
Step 2, host a landing page right there on TWXC.io. This page should have your essentials, white paper, roadmap, smart contract address.
So the domain becomes the central hub for info. Makes sense. What's next?
Next, deploy your actual token. They suggest major blockchains like Ethereum, BNB Chain, or Polygon.
The big ones?
Then submit your project for listing on the key platforms. CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, CoinPaprika.
Okay, get listed.
And they suggest you can run token sales, staking, airdrops, whatever, directly from this domain.
Interesting.
And finally, use TWXC.io when you're pitching investors. The source says it presents authority and clarity.
So it's painting this picture where just having this domain gives you instant structure, instant credibility almost.
That's exactly the narrative. What's really interesting is the claim that the domain gives you this ready-made presentation layer. It suggests it helps you jump over the usual hurdles of launching a Web3 project.
Like building trust and just presenting your info clearly, which can be hard.
Major hurdles, yeah. The listing implies the domain takes care of a big chunk of that, like instantly.
And they even try to quantify this with a comparison table, right? Contrasting without TWXC.io versus with TWXC.io.
They do. They claim some pretty significant savings and advantages.
Let's break those down. What are they comparing?
Okay, first, premium domain cost. They say without TWXC.io, a similar domain might run you $3,000 to $7,000.
Whereas with their offer,
The domain cost is included. That's the pitch.
right, a direct cost comparison. What about the time needed for branding?
Here they claim branding and trust building takes 4 to 6 months normally.
Okay.
But with TWXC.io, you get instant brand authority.
Instant brand authority. That sounds like a very strong claim.
It's definitely bold.
From your perspective, I mean, how realistic is instant brand authority just from buying a domain name?
Look, that's where the marketing copy is really working overtime, right?
Yeah.
A good domain name can certainly help you look professional, make you more memorable. That's true.
Sure, a piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. But real brand authority, especially in Web3, that comes from substance over time. It's built through, delivering on your roadmap, having audited code, building a community, actual utility.
Stuff that takes work.
Right. A premium domain might give you a slight edge in that very first impression, maybe. But calling it instant authority, that's probably stretching the truth quite a bit about what a domain alone can do.
Okay, good context. How about their claim about getting listed on coin tracking sites?
This is another big one. The source says submitting to places like CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko is often delayed or rejected without their domain.
Right.
But with TWXC.io, it implies streamlined acceptance.
Streamlined acceptance. Again, sounds almost too good to be true. What actually gets you listed on those sites? It's not just the domain, surely.
No, absolutely not. Those listing platforms have their own checklists. They look at project traction, community size, trading volume on exchanges, the quality of your white paper, the team's experience, security audits, a whole range of factors.
So the domain is just one small part of looking credible.
Exactly. Having a professional website on a decent domain helps your application look better, sure, but it's highly unlikely to be the main reason you get streamlined acceptance. That claim feels like another exaggeration of the domain's real impact on that specific process.
Gotcha. The listing also contrasts SEO and domain history. What's the claim there?
It says without it, you start SEO from scratch. But with TWXC.io, you get a clean agindex.io.
Hang on. Agindex.io. Doesn't that kind of contradict the clean, unused on CMC Coin depot point? What does age-indexed mean here?
That's a good question. It sounds contradictory, but it's probably a slight nuance.
Okay.
Age-indexed likely means the domain itself, TWXC.io, might have been registered for some time, even if never used for a project. Search engines might have indexed it simply because it existed.
Ah, so the registration has age, giving it maybe a tiny SEO boost?
Potentially, yes. A domain that's been around, even passively, can sometimes have a very small advantage over a brand new registration. The clean, unused part specifically refers to its history as a project brand on those crypto listing sites.
Okay, so it has some age value for SEO, but no project baggage.
That seems to be the distinction they're making, yeah. Minor existing SEO presence, but zero history related to crypto projects.
And the last comparison point, investor credibility?
Right. The listing claims without the domain, credibility must be earned the hard way. But with it, you get a project-ready presentation.
So, pulling back from the individual claims, what's the overall picture this comparison table paints? What's the core value proposition here, according to the seller?
The seller is essentially arguing that this domain isn't just an address. It's like a starter kit. It saves you time, saves you effort, gives you a perception of legitimacy right out of the gate, and helps you get noticed.
They're claiming it helps you bypass a lot of the usual grind and costs in Web3.
That's the narrative,
And-
yes.
yeah.
It's their justification for why this domain should command a premium price.
Now, beyond just launching a project on it, the listing also talks about other ways the domain itself could make money, potentially.
Yeah, they suggest a few different angles for monetization.
Like what?
Well, one, you could actually build that token platform they talked about, generate revenue from staking, fees, subscriptions, whatever.
Use it actively for a business.
Okay. Or two, you could just flip it later.
Hmm.
Treat it like digital real estate. Sell the domain itself as a branded Web3 identity when its value potentially goes up.
So build on it or just sell the land itself later. Any other ideas they threw out?
They suggested using it as a launch pad, like an incubator or a fundraising platform for other token projects.
Interesting model.
Or, simple as a vault, just hold on to it. Treat it as a rare digital asset with increasing demand, as they put it.
That raises a really interesting question, doesn't it? Is the domain being pitched here mainly as a tool for building something else that makes money? Or is it being pitched as a valuable asset in itself?
Based on all those suggestions, it really seems like the seller is positioning it as both.
A bit of both.
Yeah, it's a tool that gives you a supposed head start and credibility for building a revenue-generating project. And it's presented as this standalone asset, like a collectible or a piece of land, that might have its own intrinsic value and could be held or resold on its own.
That dual nature seems pretty key to how value is perceived in this digital asset world.
Absolutely. It covers multiple bases for potential buyers.
The listing also gets down to brass tacks, the deal terms.
Yeah.
What are they?
Okay, the starting offer mentioned is $5,000 USD.
$5,000. And payment methods.
Pretty standard for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, both the ERC20 and TRC20 versions, and also traditional fiat currency, US dollars or euros, via bank transfer.
Okay, covers crypto and fiat.
It also mentions it's managed by someone called A-Land
A-Land, right.
and includes that classic line, serious buyers only.
Naturally. Okay, so we've really walked through this seller's pitch for TWXC.io, the features they highlight, the big claims about speed and trust, the use cases they propose, those alleged savings, the monetization ideas, all based purely on this one source document.
We have.
How does looking so closely at this one specific example, this one domain listing, connect back to you, the listener? What are the broader takeaways about the digital world here?
Well, I think this micro example shines a light on some bigger macro concepts, actually.
Like what?
It shows how value is being constructed, or at least marketed for, digital assets that aren't just cryptocurrencies themselves. Things like domain names, especially when they're linked to hot tech trends like Web3 or AI.
Right. It's not just about Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Exactly, and it really highlights the premium that sellers are trying to attach to things like branding, perceived identity, and maybe most importantly, the promise of a shortcut in these super competitive online markets.
Yeah, the go live fast angle was strong.
Very strong.
Yeah.
And it underscores these different layers of value. They're trying to sell the domain's practical utility as an address versus its speculative value as this rare digital asset.
So analyzing this one listing kind of lets us see the mechanics of how perceived credibility and value get built up and marketed in this whole digital asset space.
Precisely. It's like a little case study in the tangible and intangible factors that sellers push when they're trying to put a price tag on, well, digital real estate in this new economy.
So, to wrap up, we've dissected this single source, the listing for TWXC.io. We've pulled out the seller's main points, its features four-letter.io, clean project history.
Uh-huh. The bold claims about giving you instant speed and trust.
The detailed ways they suggest using it to launch and fund projects.
The various monetization paths they lay out.
And we've also added a layer of, let's say, critical perspective on how those claims might stack up in the real world.
Right, and the listing itself ends with this punchy thought, kind of motto for launching something new. You don't need another idea. You need the right identity to launch it.
Positioning the domain, the identity, as the crucial factor.
Making it sound like the bottleneck isn't the idea, it's the packaging.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with something really interesting to think about. In today's digital world, which is just overflowing with ideas, with projects all clamoring for attention and trust, how much does that first piece of digital identity, the name, the domain, how much does it really influence success or failure?
How much does it actually affect perceived trust or how fast you can get to market?
And maybe, what other less obvious intangible things are being valued when someone puts a $5,000 starting price on a domain like this? Beyond just its technical job of pointing to a server.
Yeah, what's really being bought and sold there?
Something to mull over as you navigate your own corner of the digital world.